Britain may soon welcome a new Prime Minister as Keir Starmer faces the risk of losing his position. Just days after Trump's victory in the US presidential election, the relationship between him and Starmer seems to be nothing short of hostile. Trump's controversial policies only serve to highlight this tension. Let's dive into these sensational details. And don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on all the latest developments from UK politics. Let's take a look at whether Prince Harry is truly being honest and straightforward in his application. If he has nothing to hide, there's no reason why he wouldn't be willing to support the public release of his personal records. The question is, if Harry has no secrets, why doesn't he proactively allow this information to be made public? When it comes to the relationship between President Trump and Prince Harry, is there any hostility between the two? That's a question only President Trump can answer and no one else. However, it's undeniable that Harry and Meghan have put themselves at a disadvantage in the past, especially when they openly supported Democratic candidates. Although they are not involved in this year's election, their past actions clearly show they align with the left-wing agenda, which hasn't been beneficial to them. Meghan Markle has previously been vocal in her criticism of Donald Trump, which has only increased public opposition in America towards the couple. Looking at the conservative side in America, it's clear that Harry and Meghan are not well-liked figures. Particularly with Meghan's outspoken remarks against Donald Trump, it's evident this hasn't helped Prince Harry's career in the US. On the contrary, it has led to him facing unfavourable opinions, not just from conservatives, but even from those with moderate views. Can we imagine Prince Harry losing his citizenship and being deported from the United States? In reality, Prince Harry is not a US citizen, while Meghan is. This is not surprising. However, Harry still holds a British passport, and it's clear he has no intention of renouncing his citizenship. Is dual citizenship possible? In theory it is, but clearly Prince Harry is not a US citizen. At the moment, we don't know the exact type of visa Harry is using in the US, as this information hasn't been made publicly available. However, what is certain is that Prince Harry will have to take full responsibility with the next president, whoever that may be. In fact, if he continues to stay in the US, he will inevitably face close scrutiny from the authorities. This story is truly quite intriguing, and the issue of Prince Harry's visa is becoming a puzzling question. Will he be able to keep this visa, and what consequences will he face if he doesn't meet the legal requirements? This is certainly a story not to be missed. Politically, we can see that there are significant divisions within the Republican Party towards President Trump. Prominent figures like Michael Gove have chosen to side with Kamala Harris, while Dick Cheney, who served under President George W. Bush, also has an opposing viewpoint. However, if we were to ask about Margaret Thatcher, who was one of the greatest leaders in Britain's history, would she support Donald Trump? The answer would likely be very clear. With the values that Mrs. Thatcher upheld, she would undoubtedly side with Trump, as they shared a political and leadership vision with many similarities. This division in American politics, with conservatives on one side and figures like Michael Gove or Dick Cheney taking a different view, only adds to the sarcasm and mockery towards figures like Starmer, who consistently shows indecision and lacks a clear stance on critical national issues. Margaret Thatcher would certainly have worked very closely with Donald Trump if given the opportunity. If we consider the possibility of replacing Trump, Kamala Harris, the Democratic candidate, is clearly a potential danger. Mrs. Thatcher would not hesitate to regard Harris as an extremely dangerous figure representing the extreme left, and she would oppose everything that Harris stands for. Looking back at the past, it's not hard to imagine how relieved Mrs. Thatcher must have felt when Donald Trump was elected US president rather than a socialist thinker like Kamala Harris coming into power. The Iron Lady wouldn't just have fully supported Trump, but also felt satisfied knowing that those who followed socialist ideologies couldn't take control of the US government with Harris as president. While there might have been some heated debates between the two, Mrs. Thatcher would have rejoiced in knowing the US wasn't being led by extremist ideologies. Even though she was a staunch defender of the free market, Mrs. Thatcher would have been dissatisfied with Trump's protectionism, especially on tariffs. She had criticised tariffs many times, unless they were applied against enemies of freedom, such as China. Throughout her political career, She stood up for economic freedom and the principles of the free market. Donald Trump and Mrs. Thatcher share many common views on political and economic issues. One can hope that in the near future, a trade deal between the US and the UK will be signed, which could bring huge benefits to both countries. However, the special relationship between the UK and the US is currently being stifled by the weakness of Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. Clearly, Starmer is unable to make any breakthroughs in advancing the relationship with the US. Keir Starmer will face strong criticism from many quarters, especially because the Labour Party campaigned for Kamala Harris in the US presidential election, a move that many considered a serious mistake. Notably, Starmer has never apologised for this decision. In fact, senior Labour figures, such as David Lammy, have even called Donald Trump a neo-fascist, which has only increased the tension in the relationship between the UK and the US. Donald Trump will never warm to Keir Starmer, who is seen as a representative of the woke left. Trump will prioritise working with conservative figures in the UK rather than socialists like Starmer. This will pose a major challenge for Starmer, as he will not only face criticism domestically, but also strong opposition from conservative leaders in the US, while Keir Starmer will try to justify his meetings with Donald Trump and attempt to prove that these exchanges were successful. The reality is that Trump doesn't have much faith in him. Although the two have had phone conversations recently, and Trump has claimed to always be Starmer's friend, if Starmer can secure a trade deal with the US, it would be a significant success for his government. However, this possibility remains highly uncertain. A trade deal between the US and the UK would be great news, offering an opportunity to refresh the relationship between the two nations. However, it cannot be denied that Keir Starmer's government, with its socialist policies, is undermining this special relationship. Starmer's government is weak in promoting trade deals and unable to make any progress in building strong relations with the US. Particularly in the eyes of conservatives in the US, Keir Starmer and his government are viewed very negatively. This makes it difficult for Starmer to build a positive relationship with Donald Trump and the US administration. Trump is rarely tolerant of woke leftists like Starmer, which only adds to the barriers between the two nations. Finally, amidst the criticism from Margaret Thatcher's former assistant Niall Gardner, it is clear that the current political situation is incredibly tense. While the excitement surrounding the results of the US elections still lingers, in the UK, Keir Starmer's government is steadily pushing the country into crisis. Major companies like Sainsbury's, Marks & Spencer and BT are facing significant price hikes due to government tax policies, while Tim Martin, the owner of the Wetherspoon pub chain, has also stated that service businesses will have to increase prices in order to remain operational. The rising costs of labour and taxes are also pushing small businesses into a tough spot, making layoffs an unavoidable reality. When Rachel Reeves's growth budget was unveiled, the situation only worsened. Retailers like Sainsbury's are facing large losses from the proposed national insurance tax, and this will directly affect consumers and businesses. These signs clearly indicate a policy that is not only failing, but is severely damaging the UK economy. How can a budget aimed at boosting growth lead to a slowdown? This is clearly unacceptable. Recently, the Bank of England announced that inflation will continue to rise slightly, and that it will take over a year longer than previously forecast for prices to return to the target 2%. It's hard to view this as a victory for the country. What do people think about the issues we have discussed in today's video? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on the latest political developments in the UK. Thank you all, and see you in the next videos.